The 2014 Chevy Cruze is back. And we're going to try to decipher why we're losing coolant and it's overheating again. Chevrolet Cruze 2014, 1.4 liter turbocharged. And we're losing coolant and it's overheating. We replaced the head gasket and had the head machined and checked. They couldn't find any leaks in the head. We replaced the water pump. There's a housing like Ford has way down there on the bottom where the oil filter goes, and oil and a refrigerant, or coolant, I mean. Oil and coolant will go through that housing. And it's a stupid design. Ford does it, Dodge, it's that way on some Dodge vehicles. A lot of these small Chevrolet motors is like that. It's bad design, but we replaced that too. It was getting coolant in the oil, and now it's no longer getting coolant in the oil. It's just losing it. And we're having a hard time figuring out where it's coming from. It's wet up there around where the water pump is, and it's wet underneath this reservoir tank. Now something we're doing right now, we're doing a combustion test. This is a little device you can get called a block tester. It works with gas and diesel engines, and what you do is you put this fluid in up to the line, and it's blue. You start the car up, let it get up to temperature. It looks for a exhaust in the cooling system, blown head gasket, warped sealing surfaces, cracked header block, or stripped head bolts. Any of these things can cause you to have a leak. And this is American-made product. And I'm seeing I'm getting the fuel gas bubbles coming through right now. And if we get combustion gases in this will turn piss yellow. It'll be a yellow color instead of blue. It'll completely change color. It'll get almost clear. For some reason, now that the car's warmed up, look here. You see that?
It's turning yellow.
That's combustion gas. That's what we were afraid of. You see it turning yellow, and it's getting ready to boil over. Ooh. Yep. Go ahead. The fan's not working either. See what the temperature is on the car. Actually, I'm mistaken. It's the right temperature. I think it's just bleeding the system out. I don't think that's combustion gas. I think that's coolant getting into our test fluid. There's too much antifreeze in this. We're gonna have to do this test again. Stand by. Take two. We was getting coolant up into our blue fluid. That's what was turning it yellow. So go ahead and start it up if you want to. So we drained some of the coolant out. Some of it got pulled back into the block. There's too much coolant in the reservoir. So that was coolant that was changing our color. It wasn't combustion gas. So that's what it should look like when combustion gas gets into it, but that was actually coolant that was changing the color of it. So now we got plenty of heat in the engine. We're doing our combustion test now with the coolant really low. That way we can see. And it's hard to tell if it's changing color. But if it does, that means we're getting combustion gas in our cooling system. It's lighter, ain't it? Yeah, it's getting more and more, ain't it? And that's not antifreeze this time. It's some kind of gas. Just let it run there for it. Yeah, it's really pushing gas out now.
But it's not yellow.
It's getting there. Oh, it's overheating. Could be an issue. There's a lot of gas coming out through there, and the water's not moving. Now, our next test, we're going to let this thing cool off. We're going to pull the spark plugs out and stick a probe down in the engine, see if we can see any antifreeze on top of the pistons, which I'm guessing we'll find one, probably number one, that has antifreeze on top of it. We'll be back. Well, we've quit fooling with the blue dye for now. We're not really convinced that it is combustion gas. So next thing we're going to do, we pull the spark plugs. We're going to look down in each cylinder and see if we can see any kind of coolant in there. If not, we're going to change this little tank out because we've got one, and we're going to put it under pressure and see if any coolant shows up inside of the combustion chamber. We're going to do that right now. We'll take a look at it. Boy, that one's clean.
Can't really see it on the camera.
Can't see it on the camera.
Shiny.
There's no carbon on there. You can even read the barcode. Let's look at the next one, see what it looks like. Yeah, it's dirty. Let's look at number 3. Let me get this cable out of here. Look at number 3. Got a kink in it or something that's killing me, getting me hung up on everything. That one's got carbon on it. That one's got carbon on it. Can't see it, can you? Let's go back to number 1. Number 1 is sandblasted clean. It's so clean you can read the arrows and the barcodes. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to change this little coolant reservoir out, and we're going to pressurize the system and see if we can get it to go inside of that chamber. Tyler's changed this reservoir out. You drop it straight into a slot, and then it pushes straight back. So he's got to get it to drop down into place. It goes on the inside. There you go, just like that. This is the Dorman reservoir, replacement reservoir. It's supposed to have some upgrades in it to actually make it, improve it over the factory version, the Korean version. So we'll get this on here and we'll be right back. He's got the reservoir on. We're going to put a little bit of, should we put antifreeze or water in it? Well, it's going to get cold. We better put antifreeze in it because the car's going to be outside. We're going to put a little antifreeze in here and pressurize it and see if it comes up inside of the cylinder. Next tool we're going to whip out is our radiator pressure tester. It's got different kinds of caps for different models. You got a wrench to put the caps on with. It has a pump that you pump and pressurize your coolant system. So we're going to set this up and give this a shot and see if we can get coolant to go into that number 1 cylinder that's so clean. Now Tyler is going to use his Swedish-made pressure enlarger pump over here to get the pressure up in the system. He wrote a book called "This Kind of Thing Is My Bag, Baby." And I just lost the cord out of here. Uh-oh, something's wrong. There it is. Getting any pressure? And this thing shut off because the battery's dead. we've pressurized the system, and it is holding pressure. It's staying on around 15 pounds. But there's no question that that number one cylinder has a really polished piston. It's always a sure sign that it's been pushing coolant through the exhaust system, through the combustion system. And we were getting combustion gases, according to our little test fluid, getting combustion gases into that reservoir. And I planned on changing that reservoir anyway because it was it was old, and that's been a big problem with a lot of people. They had not been able to keep pressure in their system because the reservoirs are cracked. I don't think that was a problem with this. Another place you have an issue is down here on this line. Uh-oh. Yeah, look at that. Tyler. So, so this is a problem that you have on these. This coolant line leaks, and it looks like we've got a coolant line leak. So that may be where our coolant's been going all this time. That polished piston cylinder may have been from where we replaced the head the last time. We're not getting any. Put the camera down in there, even though we've had this under pressure all this time, there's no coolant inside of the cylinder. There may be a slight crack in the head that lets coolant in there sometimes, but I believe this is our problem right here. And we've replaced, oh my goodness, everything on this thing that is plastic has been replaced. This little piece right here has been replaced. There's this hose has been replaced. There's several places on here where plastic connects to this engine. And that's the problem with these little 1.4 turbos. They get really hot, they bake themselves, and then they start, the aluminum and the plastic, they heat and cool at different rates, and often it'll fracture this plastic. The plastic gets too hot, it gets brittle. Another place you have problems is back there against the firewall where the heater hoses goes in. They're little plastic fittings, they'll break. But we may have dodged a bullet on this, and we're not going to pull the head off. We're going to replace that hose right there. And the right way to do this is you're supposed to take this complete hose off and run it to the back of where it runs to the back of the turbo and replace it. But what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to put a zip wheel right on this collar right here, like it's like a hydraulic press fitting. We're going to try to cut that press fitting off of there, and this end up here has already got a hose clamp on it. We're just going to try to take that press fitting off and just put a regular hose clamp on it and just replace this short piece rather than replacing the whole entire line. But it's definitely leaking there, and it's probably been leaking there for a while, but we never could see it because it was under the turbo shroud. So let's get to work taking that apart. We've replaced that little hose with some clamps and a piece of, I guess that's transmission line. I cleaned it all up. I don't think I'm seeing any drips, but we just cut, ouch, that hurt. We just cut the collar off of that and just put a piece of hose on it. This is the hose that came off of it. It had a little metal collar, like a pressed hydraulic fitting, and it just had a clamp on the other end. So why not just put a clamp on both ends? So we took a whiz wheel and cut a little slit in it, and it came right off. It was leaking around that collar, and that's something, you can't buy just this piece. You have to buy the whole entire metal line. That metal line goes underneath the intake. It's not it there. It goes back around here and goes to the turbo for cooling. It goes to a little radiator thing under the turbo there. And you have to buy that whole line, and it looks like it's going to be you have to take the turbo off to replace it. So we just went ahead and cut the collar off, put that little piece of, I guess it's pressurized hydraulic line. It'll be under a lot of pressure, but won't be no problem. It shouldn't leak. Put some clamps on it. Tyler's got it under 15 pounds of pressure right now. And we're going to get back down in the cylinders and see if we can see any coolant in the cylinders. If we don't see none in the cylinders, then we're going to wrap this thing up and try to drive it and see what happens. Okay. We've got it right together, got it running. The smoke coming off is where I spilled brake parts cleaner on looks like it got on the catalytic converter down there. But we're not getting any leaks from our little hose. We don't know why we've got one clean piston. Maybe this car has to get hot. Where's that smoke coming from? But we do have our combustion fluid back in it. And we forgot to wash our, we got to wash our analyzer out before. We're not getting any bubbles yet. It's in there pretty good. So now we just gotta wait and see, wait on the engine, then it didn't kick the fans on yet. We're gonna give it a few minutes and see how it does. Hopefully fixing that little leak and getting keeping the coolant from running out, the car won't heat back up again, but you never know. If it's got a cracked head, it won't show up until it's good and hot anyway. We're gonna let it warm up and see what happens. We've let it run and cycle a few times. We're still got blue fluid in our little bottle there. And I guess we got to put the cover back on this. But our little hose was leaking. It's not leaking now, so maybe we've dodged another bullet. We're gonna let this thing set. We've had it running probably 30 minutes. We're gonna let it set and cool off and then try to bleed the top of the radiator again. There is a bleeder screw. It's hard to see right down on the top of the radiator on this side. You can crack it open and it'll let air out so you can get your air-bound radiator fixed. And the motor, of course, bleeds itself through this little vent right here back into the tank. It's went down about 1 inch in the reservoir, so it's taking some coolant into the engine somewhere. But I think we're going to stop here for today, and I think we're going to try to see if this fixes the issue. If not, then we'll dig deeper into it later on. We'll let you guys know. We'll bring it along with us. Right now, we're going to let the engine cool, see what it looks like in the reservoir when it cools off, and then top it off and cycle it again. We're going to keep cycling it until we get all the air out of it. But that's something to check. We changed the reservoir, didn't have to, but we had to change that little hose right there. This hose right here. So that's something to look for. Look underneath it's underneath that heat shield. I don't know what I'm doing with the heat shield. There's the heat shield. It's underneath this heat shield, so you may have to take it off to look under there. Or you might be able to look down through the side and see it, but we definitely saw a leak, so we think we got that knocked out. But that's what I think it's going to do it for us. We use this pressure tester kit. We also use that blue, see if we was getting combustion gases in our coolant. So we're going to stop here, let you guys go. I appreciate you guys riding along with us. Subscribe if you ain't already subscribed. Hit that notification bell to get back and see when our new videos come out. I don't do one. Try to do one once a week. This was kind of a special one. It was kind of an emergency situation. Every time it gets cold outside, one of our cars breaks down. So never fails on this. Thanks you guys for riding along. We do appreciate it. Stay clean, everybody.